The concern that we're going to lose our focus on debt and spending. There are a lot of national issues that we face right now, all of them very important to us. But the debt issue still remains as one of those primary issues that has to be resolved.
There was just too much government spending.
Macroeconomic challenges, including unacceptable levels of inflation.
What we care about is the debt held by the public. That's ultimately what the government owes, and that's around $27.5 trillion. It's at World War II levels right now, but of course, one big difference is that it is increasing as far as the eye can see.
With things such as inflation running rampant nowadays, not only are we Americans concerned about how much money we spend, but we are also concerned about how much money the government is spending. Now, the government happens to spend its money in three categories. These three categories of money are mandatory spending, discretionary spending, and also paying off our federal debt. Mandatory spending includes things like security, Medicare, and other welfare programs.
This is the category that the government spends the most money on. Discretionary spending goes to national defense, either the US or countries like Ukraine, and education. However, all of this spending doesn't help us, as the more the US spends, the more our national debt grows. Currently, our national debt is at $35.72 trillion. This debt causes significant increases to our interest, mortgage rates, inflation percentage, and a possible cut on Medicare and other welfare programs. Our message to the president is the government should be more careful when spending its money, and they should do so to improve the lives of those who live in the United States of America.
Historically, debt has gone up and down, but it's been about half the size of the economy. Today, debt is as large as the economy, 99%, and within a few years, we will be at a record level. The level we set in World War II was 106%. We've never gone past there. We are headed to be past there within 3 years. And then if you look over time, just going to keep growing.
All of this spending is and should be a concern to all Americans because the government has spent $6.75 trillion this year alone. The current national deficit is $1.8 trillion, meaning that in total the government has spent $1.8 trillion over what it has actually collected. This is a big factor when it comes to not only the spending problem but also the debt, because lately we have been spending and giving way more money to other countries, and as a result Americans are not getting the resources and the money they need, and it's also driving our prices up.
The sad thing is people are spending a lot more than they're taking in, including the government. And so, like with the government, the national debt is growing incredibly. Sadly, the only way to make that up is by making people pay more in taxes. One of the ways you can slow that down is by decreasing spending, government spending on frivolous programs.
The way the government spends its money can affect our daily lives. For example, in 2021, the government issued a stimulus package called the American Rescue Plan. This gave $1,400 to almost everyone in America, and this caused an 8.5% increase in inflation compared to the previous year. This caused a lot of things to be more expensive for the everyday citizen. So in the long run, the stimulus package hurt American households. However, the government spending can help us by providing welfare programs, improving education, and improving our national defense.
The government spends its money excessively. It artificially creates demand with subsidies. This can harm low and middle class families, and it can cause inflation and the cost of living overall. As mentioned previously, this can also raise the national debt even higher.
I am for limited government in the sense of them spending in the boxes that our founding fathers have set forth. For example, limited government sometimes we think is numbers or finances, which is true, but when our founding fathers believed if we went to war, we fund that war, but we pay it off in that generation. Otherwise, it is robbing from our children and our grandchildren and our posterity.
These spending decisions can be negative when the government spends its relief and its support for other countries which don't do anything to help most of the people who live in the United States. While the U.S. should help its allies, the government should be very careful about how much money and when they spend the money to help.
I think, whenever we have a natural disaster, I don't see other countries sending us any money. So You know, the last hurricanes that we've had so far this summer and fall, I don't think any other countries have sent us any money, so it's kind of a one-way deal.
At the rate the US government spends its money, it could change relationships with other countries. For example, that spending could drive us into a spot where we are the one needing money from other countries. Or it could overall make more countries more reliant on the US in general, which could damage both our economy and other countries' economies.
In the end, we need the government to fix all of its spending problems, because if it doesn't,
then this right here
isn't going to mean anything.